Hello! In this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can make a basic Souls-like dialogue system. I've already imported my own dialogue systems.
And remember, don't touch the red ones.
I meant dialogue sound waves and made them into cues. So what you want to do is select all of your dialogues and say create multiple cues. Then you'll want to select all of the cues and say asset actions, edit selection in property matrix, select all of them and say override attenuation, make sure this is set to true. That way you can hear it from left and right, so it's like a stereo audio, and as well as having it work with things like reverb and that sort of thing. I have also copied the event for the interaction system in my elevator tutorial. If you haven't seen that, you can go and watch it. But basically this is a sphere trace. It used to only be for world dynamic, which was the levers for the elevator. Now it's also including the pawn type, which means this wizard fella over here can be interacted with. Speaking of which, let's go and edit my wizard and go to class settings and implement the interaction. There we are, BP interaction, and implement the event for the interaction. Now we're not using the event interact just yet, but we are going to make the first bit of the dialogue stuff. So I've gone and made a new folder over here for the dialogue, and first thing I'm going to do is create a structure. Call this str_dialogue branch. When the NPC asks the player a question, the player can respond in multiple different ways, and the response will be saved for later use in conditions. So let's open up the dialogue branch, and here we are going to add a total of 2 variables. The first variable is the branch ID, and the second is the branch text. So the branch ID will be of type name, and the branch text is of type text. So the ID will be saved. This is what we'll, this is just like a technical term, which will be used for saving the choice of the branch ID. And the branch text, here you can say multi-line text to true if you like. The branch text is for the widget. So this is what we will actually be seeing as our possible response. So I'll go ahead and save this and make another structure and call this one str_dialogue. So this is the main dialogue thingy where I'm going to add a total of, I think, 10 or 11 variables. One is subtitles. The next is other speaker. So the other speaker, the subtitles is of type text. I think it's fairly obvious what this does. The others, you can select multi-line text here as well if you like. The other speaker will be an actor class reference, which means if this dialogue has 2 different speakers, then you can use the other speaker as a source for the location of the audio. Now we're going to make it so that you only have to set an other speaker if there is an other speaker, so you don't have to constantly set who is saying a line. You just need to know if it is someone else or not. So the next variable will be the sound, which is a sound cue object reference. Now make sure it is a sound cue and not just sound or sound wave, because the sound cue has the duration variable attached to it, which we can use to add some kind of delay. So you don't have to manually set when your next sound will play. It will play based off of the sound cue, as well as the next variable, which is the additional delay. Additional delay, which is a float. And this will be added on top of the sound cue duration. And once this has expired, the next sound will play. The fifth variable has branch, which is a boolean, and the sixth will be branch data or something like this, which will be of the other structure we just created. So this will be structure for dialogue branch. The seventh branch will be has condition, a boolean, and the seventh will be conditions. Oops, that was the eighth variable. Will be conditions, and this will be of type name, and it will be an array. Oh, I forgot the branch data for the dialogue structure should also be an array, because that way we can have more than one option, which is the whole point of a branch. Next is has new line index, which is a boolean. Next up is new line index. This is in case we need to repeat dialogue. So like the NPC has given you an assignment and then you forgot what the assignment was, so he repeats what the assignment was if in case you forgot every time you talk to him before completing the assignment. So new line index is an integer, and the final one is end talk, which remains a boolean, and this will basically say if end talk is true, then this was the last line in the current conversation before it automatically shuts down the event and you have to talk to him again. So then using these structs, we can create a data table. Let's make a data table, select the structs for dialogue, and call this dt underscore wizard for the wizard's dialogue. And then I'll go ahead and fill this one in. So I filled in these the basic first bit of the interaction with the wizard. Basically comes down to the fact that the wizard has a new assistant, which is the player, and the player has the option to either be pretending to be stupid, be actually stupid, or be a little bit smarter and actually tell the wizard that he's being a kind of a prick. So and the wizard will of course be offended by this. So I did my best Nanloth and Celavus impression, and I've filled these in with the proper subtitles as well as the sounds. And the additional delay is usually 0.5 or 0.25 seconds. And anywhere it has this one has the branch, so has branch is true. And for the branch data, you can see I have the text, which is happy to help, who are you, or excuse me. So happy to help is pretending to be stupid, who are you is actually stupid, and excuse me is the smarter one where the player is offended by what the wizard says. So the branch ID is just wiz, which is wizard, branch 1 because this is the first branch, underscore A because this is answer A, B, and C. And these will eventually get stored as the conditions, which means here, this is what the wizard says, good, straight to business, I like it, is what he says when you tell him you're happy to help, which means this one is only for wizard branch A, branch 1A, then branch 1B has all of these, where he thinks you're actually stupid, and then branch C is he gets upset that you are upset, and he tells you that you are here to aid me. So, regardless of the conditions, he will always end up saying what your assignment is, which is behind you is a device with a button on it, press the button, now go. And this one will also end the talk, which is because this one is the last one. Now I forgot that this should also have a repeating bit, so let me fill this in. So I filled this in. This is the repeating part. He says the device is off, that means you turn it on, and what part of this do you not understand? So this one will end the talk and also has a new line index, because this will then go back to the next line. Now I say line 10 here, because that's not the same as row 10, because this starts at number 1, but the indices are starting at 0. So these are actually one above what they should be. Now you often see people saying that you need to rename these rows to numbers, but you really don't have to, because there's this function, let me show it off here first, which is get data table rows names here. And this just gives you the array of names, which means now if I say get a copy, I can just get whichever name I need, because this just is like an array of names right here, which is the new row and then a number, which then just becomes a number because it now has an index inside of the array. So I can get this and say get data table row. And now there's no need for getting a for giving these row names a number. You can just use this and you don't even need it. So then I'm going to Control X to cut it so I can paste it in later. And then let's go back to our dialogue and create you know what, first let's create the widgets. So widget blueprint, user widgets, I'm going to create WBP __ subtitles first. I'm going to add a canvas panel. I'm going to add an image. And I'll place the image on the entire screen. The image will be the subtitles background. It's probably a little big. I'll do this. If you want to know how to make this, it's quite simple. You have a color, which you can get by dragging out and pressing 3. Mine color is just black. And then texture coordinates with a mask for only the green value, which means you will get this gradient. I then multiply it by 1. You don't need to, but this way you can control the intensity. So if I multiply by 0.5 and go to my subtitles, it's a slightly less heavy gradient here. But this is just a basic gradient that I've been using. Oh, I didn't click apply. So now it's a slightly less heavy gradient. I'm going to be using this. And finally, text. This is just a text block. I'm going to anchor this to, I guess, the bottom of the screen and put it up a little bit, size the content and justify to the middle. This will do, and I'm going to click is variable here so we can adjust it. We can adjust the text inside of it from another blueprint. We need another widget, which is, let me think, branch button. This is the button that will eventually be displayed as part of a branch, so I'm going to add just a button and a text block like this. Now this is a little big. I'm going to make this, let's try 200 with 10 and 210. And then what you can do is you can hold shift and right click to copy this variable, value I mean, and then shift and right click to paste it somewhere else. This works for almost any variable as long as it's the same type. So I can get the disabled foreground and put it as the normal foreground, for instance. This also works for transforms, so X, Y, and Z. You can copy and paste these. It's really useful little feature. Then for the, I'm going to check the desired thing here and see the text block, justify to the middle, and maybe place the, oh, whoops, I did it wrong. Put the same padding in. Will this look good? Sure, why not? So, in here, in the graph, I'm going to delete all this stuff, and let's see, I need a variable for the branch ID, which is the name, which will be the branch ID that I set for the dialog branch structure here. make sure this is instance editable and expose on spawn, so we can edit this whenever we like, as well as once we create the widget. Oh, and of course don't forget to make the text block a variable, because otherwise we cannot set the text properly. Okay, let's see. Then the third and final widget is the wbp_branch, which will hold the branch buttons. So I'm going to add a vertical box and make sure it is a variable. And then I'm going to add branch buttons. Now these will be dummy branch buttons, so let me fill the screen and set it to desired. Just so we can test out the padding. Let's see. Oh, I need to put this vertical box and say wrap width into a canvas panel. Makes this a little bit easier. Vertical box, select size to content. And the canvas panel, let's try fill screen again, so we can put the vertical box, anchor it to down here. Hold Control and Shift to also set the position and alignment the way you like it. I know notice these are a little big, so I'm going to reset the padding on this to default. That's probably what it was. Yeah, that'll do. So now these are really close together, so I'm going to put 10 padding on the top and bottom. This will do. But of course we're not using these actually, so we don't even need to edit check these as variables. We just need them to be here so we can test out some padding and alignment stuff. So then in the event graph I'm going to delete pre-construct and tick, but I'm going to keep events construct. I'm going to add a variable which is the branches of type str branch, what was it? Dialog branch. Make this instance editable and expose on spawn, and make sure it is in array. And then in the event construct we get the vertical box and we say clear children. So this will basically get rid of the two dummy things that we have. Then I'm going to drag out from branches, hold and press F to create a for each loop, excuse me. And let's see. I'm going to create no. What was it? Construct. No. It was create widgets. Because it's called create widget and it says construct, I always mix the two up. Which one do we need? We need WBP branch button. And as you can see here, it has the branch ID exposed on the spawn because that is how we set that variable up. So I'm going to split this pin and give it the branch ID. And then I get the text box, text block, and set text. Make sure you get the function and not the variable. I have found this one to be a little more consistent. And then set the branch text to the one from the for each loop. Then once these variables are set, we need to add child. Oh, no, I need to drag out the vertical box and say add child to vertical box. The child being the new widget. And we need to set padding. Let me just split this to 10 on the top and 10 on the bottom, because that is the variable we have tested out to see that it worked. So if you're wondering why we do it this complicated way instead of just adding them here, is this allows you to have branches with even 1 or 2 or 3 as I do, or even just like a million if you liked different branches, because that is how this works. You just, for each time you want to add a branch, you just add it to the widget, and it will automatically fill this list up instead of having to set them manually every time. So I'm going to press Ctrl Shift and S to save everything I have. And let's see now, let's go into the code. So let's create a new blueprint class of type actor component. I will call this AC_dialogue. And let's see, I need to add a bunch of functions. The first function I will add is get proper data table entry. Here I will paste the get data table row names. And then for the data table, I'm going to add variables. Should have done this first before adding functions anyway. First variable is conversations. This will be of type data table. Object reference, expose this and create an array. The next variable will be the conversation index, which means which of these data tables are we about to use. Next up is, I will duplicate this into talk index, which is which of the lines inside of the data table we are using. And finally we have talking, which is a boolean. Oh, these don't need to be arrays, they can be single. Same for the boolean, single. And let's see. Yes, so we hook up the conversations. We say get a copy, and the index is the conversation index. We hook this up to the data tables. So this will mean which of the data tables we are getting. Then where in the data table we are getting is the talk index. So once again, we don't have to use the numbers. We don't have to set the row names to numbers because here we have our row names as a bunch of numbers. So next, the return value, add a return node, and add, let me just break into dialog branch, so this becomes a dialog branch. And whoops, that's the wrong one. I need, geez, I cannot type. Dialog structure, so just str dialog, and make it this, and add another return node, which is row found. This will be a boolean. So here we have row found, and if not, we don't even need to return an out row because it's not there, and row found is false. So once again, when we get the proper data table entry, which should be a pure function, we get whichever conversation we need, turn that into a list of names, get the index for which line we are at, and get the row so we know what the line should say and what the subtitles are and all the events associated with it. So then let's make a new function, call this show subtitles, another one called hide subtitles, and let's go into show subtitles, and let's see, we need to create widget. I remembered which one it was this time, and it should be subtitles. Return value, let's promote this to a variable and say subtitles, whoops, like this. And then we say add to viewport. Now you may have noticed I put this a little lower down. I did that on purpose because we need to check the validity of the subtitles. So we just make a get node and say convert to validated get. If it is valid, we just add it to the viewports. Otherwise we create two different subtitles. And if it isn't valid, then we create the widget and then add it to the viewport. Then under hide subtitles, we get the subtitles again, turn it into a validated get. And if it is valid, we get the subtitles and say remove from parent. And if it is not valid, then we have nothing to remove, so we don't do anything. So the next function will be start talking and stop talking. And this is where the meat of it will be. So then, let's start with incrementing the talk index. So we get the talk index, we say increment int. So the talk index will go up by 1, which means if this is the first thing we do, we need to set this to -1. Because if it is at 0, then the first talk index will be 1, which means it is the second line, because why is that showing up? Come on. There we go. If it is starts at 0, then we now set it to 1 before getting which line we should know. So it will start over here, which is 0. Then we get number 1, which is row number 2 here, because it starts at 1. So it will start with the one row in front of the one we would actually want. So that's why we set it to -1. Let's see. Next up, oh, I forgot yet another function. Let's add conditions met. This is once again a pure function, which means we don't need to use the exec nodes. We can just get it just as you would get a get node. Let's see. Right, this is where we should store the choices that we made. So let's make this and say choices. Call this a name. Make it an array, and then we say get the choices, and we get proper data table entry. So what we're going to do is we're going to check the choices that we have already made and compare them to the choices in here, or the conditions, excuse me. So drag on and press F to create a for each loop. So for each of the conditions, we are going to check if it is made, contains this item. Then we need to make a local variable. I will call this lv underscore return values. Make this a boolean, not a byte, a boolean. And we add our output to this boolean. So for each of these conditions, we check is it whether or not it is in the choices that we have made. And then once we have completed, we are going to add a return node, add an output, call this all met, met. And we get return values contains false, not boolean, and that is what we return. So let me clear this up. So then we check the return values. Have we not made any choices that are part of the conditions? If that is true, then they wouldn't be all met, which is why we pass it through a not boolean. So whatever this is, it inverts the value, and that will be if we met them all or not. So then in start talking, we get conditions met. Make a branch, so let's drag and hold B. If all of the conditions are met, we can continue. If they are not, then we go back into our false. So then, let's see, what else do we need? Beforehand, we need to know, get proper data table entry, we break the structure, and we get the other speaker. So we need to know where the sound will be coming from before we play it. So let's get actor of class. I just realized this means you could also have this as an actor object reference. That might be better actually, but I'll keep this for now. Say is valid. Make sure you get the function and not the macro here. Usually I would recommend the macro, but this time I need the function because we're using this in a select node. Let's see. I need to select actor. No, that doesn't exist. Just select then. And let's see, if it is valid, then we use this. If it is not valid, then we say get owner of the component. This is important because this is not an actor. This will get a reference to self, but self is not an actor, it is a component because we are an actor component. So we get owner for the components. Then we are going to get components by class. That class being skeletal mesh component. I'm going to drag from the exec and say spawn sound attached. And this will be the attached to component, and the attach point name will be head. You could turn this point name into a variable if you have a character that talks from their feet or something like that, but I'm just going to hard set this to head. Then the sound will be going to get the proper data table entry and break the structure again and get the sound. And this will be the sound. You can mess around with these values, I'm not going to. Let's see, I'm just going to continue with making this return value into a variable. Call this the sound. This is where we set is talking to true. And we also call the show subtitles. And I just realized we don't set the subtitles, so let's over here get the subtitles and get text. Get the text block and set the text to, you guessed it, we get the proper data table entry, we break the result, hide unconnected and show these subtitles, and put this in here. So let's go back to start talking. The show subtitles will now work. And let's see. All right, so this is where we start to look at the next line. So let's so this is the part where we should try and play the next line. So let's go and, what is it, timer by function name. Set timer by function name. The function name, I'm going to say select string. And I'm going to get the proper data table entry, break the results, and say, which ones do we need? We need the sound, we need the additional delay, and we need end talk. So end talk will determine whether or not we say stop talking or start talking. So if we end the talk, we stop talking. If we continue the talk, we start talking. And when do we do it? The time is currently set to 0, so we get the sound and say get duration. This is why we have it as a sound class, because a sound wave will not have this variable. So you would need to set it manually, which in this case you wouldn't have to do, which saves you a bunch of effort. So in the additional delay, we are going to add this to each other, and that will be the time until the function will be called. And I'm also going to promote this to a variable, call this next line timer, and then in the stop talking, so now let's get the stop talking. The first thing we need to do is get the sound and convert it to a validated get. If it is valid, then we just say stop. If it is not valid, then we can ignore this because there is nothing to stop. There is no sound to get rid of. Next is we set talking to false because we have stopped talking. I can go into is valid, make sure this is also connected here. Otherwise, when the sound is already stopped, then this is the only logic it will try and do. Let's see. We need to hide the subtitles. And I'm going to clear and invalidate the timer. Now, most of this would probably already have happened, such as the stopping of the sound and the invalidation of the timer will have already happened if the line progressed naturally. But what if I wanted to skip a line? Then I would in fact need to get the sound to stop and get the next line timer to be invalid. Otherwise, these things will keep going when the next one will play. Speaking of the next one playing, we need to know which one that will be. So we get the proper data table entry, we break the results, and we check has new line index and a new line index. So if it has a new line index, then we set the talk index to, according to my notes here, this should be -1 of the new line index. And that should do it for this part of the logic. This would now work if I did everything correctly according to my notes, which admittedly would be a first, but I suppose we'll see. Right then, I need to interact with the character, so let's see. And of course I need to add the components. So let's search for our AC dialogue. We have added the component. I'm going to add one conversation, which is DT wizard. I don't have to bother about all these things. Then from the AC dialogue, I'm going to get is talking. And if he is already talking, that means we have to skip a line. If he is not talking, then I'm going to say start talking. And if he is talking, then I'm going to say stop talking. And based off of, if I can say get proper data table entry and break the results, if this is end talk, then it shouldn't do anything else because that's the last line that he should be playing, so we should stop the conversation. If there is something, then we start talking again, which basically skips the line. So in short, we interact with the guy. If he is not talking, then we start talking. If he is talking, then we stop talking and continue talking only if this is not the last part of the conversation. So let's try this out.
You must be my new assistant. You'll do, I suppose. Behind you is a device with a button on it. Press the button to turn it on. Now go.
So that was the first part of the conversation. Now you may have noticed it skipped all of these lines based off of the condition because we haven't set any of these conditions yet. So anything that has a condition currently does not meet the conditions, so we skip them, and instead we go behind you is a device with a button on it. We go straight to the assignment. So I can go into the level here and interact with him again.
The device is off. That means you turn it on. What part of this do you not understand?
We can hear the lovely mic popping because I sat too close to the microphone. And now if everything went well with this, should repeat.
The device is off. That means you turn it on. What part of this do you not understand?
Which means I can repeat this dialogue again and again if I like. Now then, let's go ahead and test the skipping of the line. So let me start this again. And I'm just going to spam E.
What part of...
And you may have noticed, I went a bit too quickly. Let me try again. You may have noticed it removed the subtitles and everything when I reached this point. Press the button to turn it on, now go. Because that one has the end talk, which means it will remove it from the viewport and everything.
Behind you is it press the button.
As you can see, I pressed E to skip the line, but he did not immediately go to the device is off. Now if I press him again...
The device is off. What part of this do you...
That is because we had the end talk selected, because and that will mean that he does not start talking. So this tutorial is kind of dragging on. I know it's not the most organized thing I've ever made, but let me show you what could happen if I actually manually set the choices to something like Wiz branch 1A. So now it should play the ones from Wizard branch 1.
You'll do.
So this is where the branch would show up.
Good. Straight to business. I like it. Behind you is a device.
And there you go. He actually played the line that was meant for the conditions. Because this tutorial is already dragging on a little longer than I had hoped. So I guess I'll make this 2 or 3 part tutorial. For the next one, we were going to add this one, the branch and the branch buttons, to be able to select one of the choices that it shows you based off of the branches that we set over here, these ones. Those will show up in this list, and then when you click one, it will save that choice to your character or to your dialogue system, whatever, and you will be able to, you won't have to set these manually over here. But I'll leave that for the next time. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you did, please let me know by leaving a like. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll do my best to help. That'll be all from me for now, and I hope to see you again next time. Good luck!